Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our Expert Exchange series on biomanufacturing careers. I have the honor of introducing our two experts, Angela Stewart and Emmanuel Oro. Angela is the VP of Recruiting for Kelly Science and Clinical, and we've had the great pleasure of having her as part of the Kelly family for the past 18 years. Her expertise is deeply rooted in science as she studied biology and chemistry at UNC Chapel Hill, and she's based outside of the Research Triangle Park of North Carolina. Emmanuel is the intelligence director here at Kelly Science and Clinical. She has 9 years of experience with Kelly in life sciences staffing, both with the European and North American teams. She has a PhD in developmental biology and is based in Paris, France. All right, we've got a lot to cover today, so let's jump right in. Biomanufacturing has absolutely exploded over the last few years, and the demand for qualified professionals with it. Can you give us some insight into this growing demand?
Yeah, sure. And maybe good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, depending on where you're based. Thrilled to be with you today. So, to get back to your question, if we want to understand why there is such an increase within the biomanufacturing space, we need to look at the market for a moment. First things first, let's start with a definition that probably is just a reminder for us today, but biomanufacturing defines the process of using a living organism, in our case, to produce a drug, understand to commercialize it. Indeed, when you think about biomanufacturing, you need to produce the drug at a very large scale, right? And that covers the area of biologics. Biologics has many sub-industry. You can think about antibodies, peptides, vaccine, but also cell and gene therapies. If the first two, sorry, have been on the market for a while, the last two, so cell and gene therapy and vaccines, are currently really booming.
Yes.
Innovation, new capabilities, speed to market as well, which is obviously a consequence of the COVID, of the pandemic, allowed at the global scale to generate new and very targeted drugs. Just to give you an idea, back in 2022, the market size of the biologics represented approximately in US dollars 470 billion. Yes, I said billion. And should reach by the end of 2030 520 billion US dollar. And within the biologic market, the area with the fastest growth, almost 20%, it's the cell and gene therapy market. So this growth and the will to increase, the access to personalized medicine impact positively the workforce. That is why process development, manufacturing, whether it is upstream or downstream, specialist, quality, regulatory affair, all those roles are in very high demand right now.
That absolutely makes sense. Which of those biomanufacturing skill sets are the most sought after in today's market?
So when you think about a skill set, it will basically depend, on the strategy used to develop the drug, but also on the therapeutic area that you are focusing on. Of course, I could tell you that, oh, there is a boom in demand when it comes to technician or manufacturing associates or even role within quality, but maybe we can have a closer look at the technical skills associated to the biomanufacturing space. So, as an example, if you look at the cell and gene therapy market, you will need to be at ease, with cell culture or maybe gene manipulation. If it's about gene addition, sorry, for example, an expertise in the use of viral vector will be needed. If it's gene addition, then maybe you will need to master, the CRISPR technique. If it's gene silencing, then it would be siRNA, etc., etc. If you are uh, evolving within the immuno-oncology space, then maybe the CAR T cells is a technique that you would need to master. And in parallel, you also have roles far from the bench. such as regulatory affair, for example, it is a very fast-paced environment. So you need to, keep up with the regulations, the law. You need to know about the different stakeholders that are involved in the approval process of biological drugs. So of course, all those technical expertise and knowledge that I just mentioned are key pillars for roles in biomanufacturing space. But beside that, you also need to take into consideration, your personality and your soft skills. They are as well key parameters, because working, with such sensitive drugs, I would say, would require organization, teamwork, a clear communication, and obviously resilience. It's again, like I said, it's a fast-paced environment with no room left for improv.
Yes, definitely. That makes sense. Um, so, can you shed some light specifically on the career growth opportunities that are in the biomanufacturing space as it continues to evolve? With the growth that it's going to experience over the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot of opportunities pop up.
Sure, sure. So if you enter the biomanufacturing space, that can take someone's career in multiple directions. Growth within pure manufacturing side of the things, whether it is upstream or downstream. You also have process development, quality assurance, quality controls, like I mentioned earlier, regulatory affair. An example I would say would be to start within research and development, get the knowledge to master a bunch of different techniques, then potentially move to scale up, just to be at ease with bigger production, I would say. And that could lead you to master the manufacturing part of the drug. And then from there, you would gain seniority, you would gain management skills. Within the time, you would potentially evolve into a manager role, and even up to become a plant, the manager of the whole plant operation, I would say. Again, mastering a bunch of techniques. And if you do enjoy being at the bench, you could evolve into a process development role. And finally, and because I know we tend to forget about that when we speak about technical skills, but the support function are also an option. And by support function, I mean everything related to communication, marketing, sales. Um, in addition, you could also evolve into a variety of different type of companies, sponsor organization, meaning companies that developed and produce their own drug, or a CDMO company type. You could also focus on a specific therapeutic area, whether it is rare disease, infectious disease, oncology again. Basically, it all starts with your background, where you want to take your career. And I know Angela will touch base on that shortly, but it is crucial to stay up to date in your field and to never stop learning, basically.
Definitely. On that note, Angela, you spend a ton of time meeting with hiring managers in the biomanufacturing industry. Can you please give us some insight into this upskilling and shed some light on why continuous learning is so important, particularly in biomanufacturing?
Yeah, I would be happy to. I want to start out by referencing something. So in 2020, the World Economic Forum published their Futures of Jobs report. And in that publication, they mentioned that almost 50% of employees were going to need reskilling by 2025. Fortunately, many employers have already recognized this, and they're offering great opportunities for their employees to upskill or reskill. Sadly, in that 2020 report reference, though, less than half of the employees who could take advantage of a reskilling or upskilling opportunity were doing so. So I
Hmm.
think these data points really reiterate the emphasis on continuous learning and its importance to any career. Those within the biomanufacturing space are certainly no different, right? Some might even say that it becomes even more important in our space. The COVID-19 pandemic certainly taught us a lot of things,
Sure did.
right? Including the speed at which science can evolve. So that speed and thirst for innovation certainly shows no sign of slowing down, right? So it's leading to new technologies and processes that really have the potential to drastically change the way that we bring products to market and the way that we work. There are certainly some really great educational training programs, but one of the good pieces or news is that learning and development, you don't necessarily have to seek external programs to grow. So I did want to talk about really looking internally. So if you're in a biomanufacturing company currently, talk to your manager or supervisor about your desire to grow. That they may be able to point you towards internal training opportunities or maybe a tuition reimbursement program. In addition, seek out job opportunities to shadow people, right? So if you're really interested in QA or QC, but you sit in manufacturing, ask your manager if you can sit with someone within those departments for a few hours. You can also ask your leader about being on pilots or trials, right? So if the department is evaluating a new piece of equipment or is in discussion to change a really important process, volunteer to give your perspective. I think the most important thing about any of these suggestions is to take them seriously. If your leader or a peer is taking their time to help you get to the next level, just to make sure you're paying attention, right? And that you're using everyone's time wisely.
Absolutely. So, as far as relevant certifications and training programs, are there those out there for biomanufacturing to help candidates stay competitive in the job market when they're looking for a new position?
Yeah, absolutely. Fun fact, there are more than 4,000 degree training
Wow.
programs across the United States right now. And interestingly enough, that doesn't include all of the fantastic community college programs or partnership programs that are offering certificate level programs as well. So there are great resources that people can look at when they're reskilling or looking to upskill within this space. Em and I actually ran a Lightcast report just recently on biological technicians, which is where a lot of biomanufacturing associates would sit. And 52.6% of those jobs listed an educational requirement that was less than a bachelor's degree. So, great opportunity for certificate programs or, again, those upskilling or reskilling opportunities. In addition to the training and certificate programs offered through community colleges, I do want to point people towards fantastic professional organizations and partnership organizations that offer courses and seminars in these topics. Some of those organizations include, and this is certainly not an all encompassing list, ISPE, the Parenteral Drug Association, the PDA, NIMBLE, the National Institute for Innovation in Manufacturing Biopharmaceuticals, the Biotech Primer, which is an educational partner for Bio or the Biotechnology Innovation Organization. Some of y'all may be going to that conference next week. These organizations offer great training opportunities to get up to speed or stay up to speed on the latest things that are happening within the industry. I also did want to take a moment, and while it is unrelated to certificate or training programs, I think it's still really important. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about AI. So,
Yes.
while we don't know how AI is really going to impact the science space, I think that's still very much a hot topic. All signs point to it is not going away. So, I would just encourage everyone to take the time to learn about it. Try out the free tools online. Ask your current organization about a co-pilot pilot license. Even if you're using them in your daily life that is outside of a manufacturing setting, it has applicability, and
Mhm.
those are skills that you can take into another position. So just be familiar with what they can do, how to write prompts, but certainly don't be afraid of AI because it is not going away anytime soon.
I can definitely see how AI would be a huge asset just in even on to put on your resume or to mention in an interview that you have experience with it. It's going to open a world of possibilities, I know, in the science world. But what are some of the other hot hiring trends that are going on in biomanufacturing right now?
Yeah, sure. So adding on what to M mentioned earlier, according to the BLS or the Bureau of Labor Statistics, those biological technicians that I mentioned earlier, they are expected to grow substantially over the next few years. In the 10-year period between 2022 and 2032, employment is projected to grow in that space by 5%, with an estimated 10,000 openings each year. So, talk about hot hiring trends. That is certainly
Yes.
one of those places. And while those numbers are astounding, what's even more astounding is that it really only speaks to one type of position within this industry. So, as the demand for biomanufacturing professionals continues to increase, there are certainly some areas of the country where the supply of talent just hasn't kept up, and it might be insufficient to meet the growing demand. So, historically, when this happens in the industry, we start to see organizations within that space take additional steps to ensure that the supply of talent is where it needs to be. So we previously mentioned that organizations take steps to upskill or reskill their current talent. In addition, we tend to see organizations partnering with local community colleges and universities to create educational opportunities. And lastly, and something we've been hearing a lot about in the conversations we've had and the conferences that we've been to, really a large push to skill-based hiring. So for those who may be unfamiliar with this, skill-based hiring really prioritizes someone's skills or abilities rather than their educational attainment or experience. So this allows individuals who don't have a science degree or experience in the space to enter this really exciting, in demand industry, right? Certainly widens the supply of talent for the biomanufacturing industry. In addition, it removes a really critical barrier to work for those who chose not to or didn't have access to that higher level of education. So, we're certainly excited to talk to our clients about that.
Breaking down those barriers to work is so important. It's something we're so passionate about here at Kelly. And that gives some great insights into technicians entering the market. But I know that there are a ton of senior level roles in high demand as well. Could you share a little bit more insight into what those are looking like in this current market?
Yeah, I think Em hit on a bit of this earlier, and I know I've spent a fair amount of time talking about the biological technicians or the manufacturing associates, but there's certainly a great deal of demand for those more senior level roles. We continue to see needs for professionals within process development, QA, QC, regulatory affairs. In addition, the industry is seeing an increase in senior level roles related to R&D, gene editing, using that CRISPR technology that Em mentioned, as well as AI, right? And really figuring out, hey, how AI is going to be used within this space. So, as I mentioned before, science is moving at a really rapid pace, and individuals need to stay diligent when it comes to continued opportunities to learn and grow. So, if you're not in one of these senior level roles and you're looking to get there, this is where those shadowing opportunities, volunteering for stretch assignments, and additional certificate and training programs come into play. As the need for senior level roles continues to grow, we're going to see talent shortages, and the speed of innovation is certainly going to probably make that even worse. So now's the time to invest in yourself and really start to grow.
Yes, another thing that we're huge advocates for at Kelly is that professional development aspect. Can you offer any insider tips on crafting a compelling resume and interview prep strategies that are specific to biomanufacturing?
Yeah, for sure. This is actually one of my favorite questions. Having spent 18 years in recruiting, I love talking about preparing candidates and getting those resumes ready. So, a few tips everyone should really remember when crafting a resume. So, first and foremost, this is your opportunity to shine. This is not your time to be modest or not share your accomplishments. This is the time to highlight your experience and accomplishments and those transferable skills if you're trying to get into the market. With that being said, don't go overboard, right? We still want a succinct, well written document. Next, think about what you put on your resume, right? So you've got to make sure you're 100% honest about your skills. Any skill or technique that you list on your resume is fair game for an interviewer to ask about. So if you list HPLC as a piece of instrumentation you used, you got to be prepared to talk about it. If you've mentioned large scale bioreactors, you got to be prepared to talk about it. You get the idea. So make sure everything on there is something that you're ready to talk about. Next, make sure that your resume is really tailored to the job that you want. Resumes are not a one size fits all. So you need to make sure you're taking the time to highlight in your resume how you are a fit for the job that you're applying for, that specific one. So this again includes focusing on transferable skills and really highlighting how you are a fit for that role. As I mentioned before, there is a substantial amount of focus on skill-based hiring right now. So make sure you're calling out those skills that are transferable and explaining how you gain the experience with those. So I thought I would give an example. So let's say you're working in the financial industry, but really want to move into biomanufacturing. And in the financial industry, you worked on a team that oversaw an audit, and maybe you discovered several discrepancies with the data that others had missed. And maybe this saved that financial institution hundreds of thousands of dollars. You pair that with a biomanufacturing certificate, you're now showing that you have those core attributes to be successful, right? That detail orientation, working on audits. Paired with a biomanufacturing certificate, you're showing that you're ready to take that next role and you have the passion to do so. So you sent your resume in, representative has called you, they want to invite you for an interview. So that's great news, right? But now you got to make sure you're prepared. So first and foremost, make sure you've researched the company. Make sure you know what products the organization is manufacturing. Look to see if they have any new products in the pipeline, and if so, how those are doing. Look to see if they've been in the news, and if so, read those articles. You may also want to check out their latest financial disclosures as well as their mission and vision statements. It is not uncommon, y'all, for the first question in an interview to be, tell me what you know about our organization, or why do you want to come to work for us? These should be really easy for y'all to answer if you've done the research ahead of time. Also, while you're researching, make sure you know how to get to the site. Assuming the role you're applying for will be on site, try driving there, right? You definitely don't want to be late for the day of the interview, so try driving there ahead of time. And while we're talking about going on site, make sure you come prepared to take a tour. So that means no open-toed shoes, appropriate attire for a biomanufacturing facility. You certainly want to be able to take the tour if they offer to do so. And finally, our team, a little plug for our team of scientific recruiters, we have reviewed thousands of resumes and prepared thousands of science professionals for interviews. So if y'all need help navigating this process, please feel free to reach out to our team. We're really passionate about science and putting people to work, and we would be happy to help you.
Absolutely. All right, back to you, Em, for one of the most important topics. Let's talk salaries. What are the trends you've been seeing in biomanufacturing salaries over the last few transformative years?
Sure. Big topic, right?
Yes.
So I would say that, following the pandemic, there was a significant increase in this industry's salaries. And then from late 2022 up to end of last year, I would say it slowed down. And this year, the expectations are that it should grow again by about 2%. I would say, and again, I'm not making that up. I'm cross-referencing a bunch of source, which are, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, some reports from Biospace and the CBRE, and of course from us, as we are used, to provide talent in that space. And I guess many people would like to get an idea of the salary, which is a bit complicated to give. Well, I could deep dive into national average, to be honest, but I guess, if someone has a very specific question, feel free to reach out to us directly, and we will be happy to answer that. But there are so many parameters that are influencing, a salary, that it's hard to give it for every position, And
Absolutely.
maybe, speaking about those factors that can influence a salary, maybe I can take some time to deep dive
Sure.
into that. So I would say first, the seniority of the role and the responsibilities associated to it. the location. You won't get the same salary whether you are in the West Coast, the East Coast, or Mid America. The company size, is it an international group? Does it has many different locations throughout the country that will impact as well? Again, the developmental stage of the company. Do they already have a drug on the market? Meaning, is the product commercialized? Do they have cash entering their finance department? Or is it a preclinical stage company? The company type as well. Sponsor or organization, again, having its own drug, or a CDMO working with a bunch of clients on different type of projects. All that will influence a salary. And maybe just to emphasize on something, when you are applying for a role, do your research when it comes to the salary, right? We have access to a ton of information online, and this is not only true for the biomanufacturing space, but for the life science market and all the other industry as well. But you do have dedicated website. Google is one of your best friend. And again, I'll bounce back on what Angela mentioned earlier, but generative AI tools, they are amazing, and they can help you to benchmark a salary for a specific role. And maybe last but not least, a recruiter will be able to orient you when it comes to salary range and information, and work with you to get you what fits you best.
Absolutely. I was going to include a pitch here. We are dropping a link in the chat to sign up for a one-on-one with our Kelly Science and Clinical recruiters. And this team is incredible. A lot of them have specific science backgrounds. And when you go to sign up for this one-on-one, you will get matched with a recruiter who specializes in your region and your area of expertise. So they're going to be able to help you determine an accurate salary range, because with all of those different factors, you can clue them into what you're looking for, and they can tell you, what's reasonable, what's the market rate. Here's how you can boost your salary by adding certifications, just to kind of bring everything together. So I love that. I think, it's our team is a wealth of information. So please, one of the great benefits of working with a recruiter. And last but certainly not least, I would love if you could give any words of advice for those who are building their career in biomanufacturing, whether they're just starting out, senior level, anyone along the path of this incredible career.
Sure. I can jump first here. I would say, whether you are junior or you are, looking for the next step in your career, do never underestimate the power of networking, whether it is online, in real life, with your school alumni group. Don't hesitate to reach out, ask question, information, connection, on the social media, for example, because
Yeah.
you might be surprised how people are highly likely to bounce back, be supportive, and willing to help you.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely. Angela, how about you?
I would completely agree with them. Networking is so powerful. And I don't think this will come as any surprise, my piece of advice based on what I've talked about today, but just stay curious and continue to learn. As science evolves, we know that employees are going to need new skills to be successful. So just take the time to invest in yourselves and in your careers. And that may be through networking, right? Ask
Yeah.
somebody to meet over coffee if they have the role you want. You never know what they'll be able to share.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, thank you both so much for sharing your insights. We covered a ton of ground today, and this was really only the start. We've reached the Q&A portion of our event. So please go ahead. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. And we are going to jump right in with a few that we have received already. So one that I wanted to touch on is it possible to start a career in biomanufacturing from the classical pharma industry? How can you make that transfer?
Do you want me to take that one?
Up to you.
Yeah, I can take it. So I would say absolutely it's possible, right? I mean, I think we've talked a lot about upskilling and reskilling, and actually it's a lot easier in terms of taking what you've learned in sort of that classic pharmaceutical setting and moving it into biomanufacturing. Certainly, are there differences and are there things that you will need to learn? 100%, but it's all about focusing on those transferable skills and, going out and getting a certificate program or networking, right? All of these things are really valuable when moving from one very parallel industry into another.
Great. Okay, we got one question here. Let's say I'm a PhD applying to MSL positions. How would you advise to set up a resume since the experience is mostly R&D?
You know what I would say in that case, you need to orient your resume into the transferable skills that Angela mentioned earlier. So if you stop thinking about, the bench and the academic point of view, think about everything that you developed throughout your PhD that are skills around communication, writing, organization, leading projects, and build your resume giving example of, maybe project that where you use those skills, with some data. So put that on your resume. And again, this is also what Angela was sharing earlier, but make sure to be ready to speak about those skills when they ask you question. Be ready to give example of, oh, I gave that talk, I did that, I wrote that article, I worked on that amount of project at the same time. So yeah, I would say focus on transferable skills and leave maybe behind all the technical skills associated to your PhD.
Great. I think that's also a good opportunity to coach everyone to kind of continue updating your resume, even if you're not actively looking for a position, because
Of
all
course.
of those great achievements that you've done along the way, you don't want to be stuck sitting here looking back at the past, however many years of your career, trying to remember all of those. Keep track of your accomplishments as you go. I love that. Okay, Angela, you mentioned shadowing colleagues and volunteering for pilots and trials. I think that's a great opportunity for people to learn and gain on-hand experience. But how can I best approach my manager about these opportunities, especially if I've already got, a pretty full workload currently?
Yeah. So I think it's all about being honest and transparent with your supervisor about where you want to go. Right. That could be, as a random conversation, a one-off conversation that you have with that manager or supervisor during the day. It could be a part of an annual performance review, right?
Sure.
And setting up a plan for how you're going to continue to grow with the organization. Most managers and supervisors are really excited to help people grow within their careers. There was someone who did that for them. So I think it's all about just having that open, honest conversation with them.
Definitely. Okay, we got one here. I am a PhD in molecular biology and biochemistry. I am seeing a ton of positions open which match my experience and skills, and I've applied to more than 100 jobs, tailoring my resume for the position exactly, but I'm still not getting an interview. What am I missing? I think a lot of people can relate to that question.
Yeah, I guess, I understand you are saying that that match your skills, but maybe you are thinking about technical skills when, the company that is hiring is having a clear idea of the diploma that is required for the job or the year of experience that are associated to the role. So maybe there is a mismatch there, but I would encourage you, to reach out to one of our recruiters. Ange, maybe you want to add something on that?
Yeah, I would just echo that. So I think, again, to Patrice's point, this is not uncommon, right? We've heard this many times before. It may be a few things that a recruiter can help you change about your resume or about a transferable skill that maybe you're not thinking about that they can point out based on their experience filling thousands and thousands of jobs. So I would really just encourage you to reach out to a recruiter. It's a free conversation. So, certainly they would be happy to talk to you.
Absolutely, and I'll echo. I mean, I've seen some of the some of the submissions that come out from our recruiting team to the companies that we work with, and they're able to tell a bigger story than just your application or just your resume. So they're able to sometimes connect the dots in ways that that piece of paper can't. And so you really have an added benefit working with the recruiting team because they can connect those dots. They can show everyone, say, this is why this is a great candidate, and you won't believe who's been missing out on them. It's incredible kind of what we've seen come across the desk before. So. Okay, it looks like, unless anyone has any other last minute questions, it looks like that's all we have for today. And we're already over time, which is great. We had some incredible discussions, incredible questions. If you do have any lingering questions, again, a great time to go ahead and join that one-on-one consultation. I see Andre's been sending that link out to everyone, which is great. But Angela and Emmanuel, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. And to everyone who attended, thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to snag that consultation spot and then check out our open positions in the meantime. And we will be talking to you soon.